Um, we're going to be reading out of Jude. It's a very small book. It's right in front of Revelation, but you may miss it a time or two because it's very small. Jude is where we'll start reading. I'm not going to read the whole book, which is very small, but I'm going to read probably half. It's only one chapter, because the book of Jude is about it's a letter, but it's not. I'm not twisting it or anything to make it what I want it to be. It's I've just got a different spin on it. I got something else out of it, but the whole book is about like, I don't know how to put it, but to explain the faith that we're supposed to have, to warn against like false prophets, and to make sure that people are withstanding the standards of what the Christian faith is supposed to be. That's what this whole letter's about. But I'm going to get into it. I've got a little different spin on it, on one verse particularly, but I'm going to read 1 through 10, and then we'll back up and I'll read the verse that really stood out to me, and I've done some research on it. But it says, Jude, the servant of Jesus Christ and brother of James, to them that are sanctified by God the Father and preserved in Jesus Christ and called, mercy unto you and peace and love be multiplied.
Turn it up a little bit.
Yeah, if you turn the mic up. No, you're okay. I want you to be able to hear.
Now try it, Jane.
What about now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'll restart, but it may sound a little different than a normal book. It's because it is a letter, so it's wrote like a letter. But we'll restart in verse 1 of Jude. It says, Jude, the servant of Jesus Christ, and the brother of James, to them that are sanctified by God the Father and preserved in Jesus Christ and called, mercy unto you and peace and love be multiplied. Beloved, when I gave all diligence to write unto you of the common salvation, it was needful for me to write unto you to exhort you that ye should earnestly contend for the faith which was once delivered unto the saints. So it's saying what I kind of tried to say earlier was, he's saying, it says, beloved, when I gave all diligence to write unto you of the common salvation. So he's trying to explain salvation, that I guess that who they're writing to. I can't remember now. I've done a lot of research on this. But he's trying to make sure that there's no false witnesses. There's no false teachers. And people have twisted salvation, and they've twisted the teachings of God. And he's trying to keep them on the straight path, the straight and narrow path, to make sure they stay where they need to. It says, when I was reading about the book, it's really a big part of it is that you can't get saved and live however you want to afterwards is the biggest thing. It's you've got to stay on the path with Jesus. You can't just do whatever you want to do. It's a big part of this Jude here, this letter. But it says, I'll reread where I stopped. It says, and exhort you that ye should earnestly contend for the faith which was once delivered unto the saints. For there are certain men crept in unawareness, who were before the old ordained to this condemnation, ungodly men, turning the grace of our God into lavishness and denying the Lord, the only Lord God and our Lord Jesus Christ. So he says that certain people, certain ungodly men that are using the grace of God for their own benefit and twisting it and making it into something that God did not intend. It's in lavishness. It means, which I didn't know, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but in this context, it's lustful. It's not like I think of, if I'm even pronouncing this right, I think of lavishness as like good things, expensive things. But in this context, it is pretty much, it said like sexual desire, lust. So it's there. What I got out of it is the worldly desires. Ungodly men that claim to be godly men have twisted the word of God into what they want for their own desires of the world. Is what verse 4 pretty much says. It says, I will therefore put you in remembrance through ye once knew this, how that the Lord, having saved the people out of the land of Egypt, afterward destroyed them that believed not. So 5 is saying, remember when God sent Moses down to take the Israelites out of Egypt, and then the Egyptian Pharaoh, he said, no, you can't have them. He sent the plagues and killed all the unbelievers and killed them either through starvation, because he turned the river into blood. He put the locusts, the famine, and they killed the firstborn if they didn't have the blood of the lamb. And then when they let them go, and then they chased them out of Egypt, he dumped the Red Sea on them and killed all the Egyptians. So that's what it's talking about in 5. It says in 6, and the angels which kept not their first estates, but left their own habitation, he has reserved in everlasting change under darkness unto the judgment of the great day. I believe that's talking about the devil and the angels that rebelled against God. It says in 7, even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh are set forth for an example of suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. So he's talking about, we all know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, what they were doing down there, and God destroyed them for that. He turned Lot's wife into salt because he said, leave and don't look back, and she turned to look back, and she turned into salt. But it says, going after strange flesh. I didn't know what that meant. I kind of had an idea. We all know what fornication means, but strange flesh, there was a couple different interpretations of it, but they all about the same. Let's talk about number 1, homosexuality, which we know they said was going on in Sodom and Gomorrah. Maybe people said it could have been when the angels showed up to warn Lot and his family, and the people wanted to sleep with the angels. It could have been them wanting that. Is the strange flesh. There was a few other examples, but that is what I've got out of it. In 8 it says, likewise also these filthy dreamers defile the flesh, despise dominion, and speak evil of dignities. I think that's how you say that. But I'm going to stop right there. So pretty much Jude, he's going over all the things that they've already seen and heard happen. The people he's writing to may have not seen these things, but they've all been taught these things about what happens when so-called godly men, or men that call themselves godly, twist Jesus's and God's words into making it appeal to themselves and making it where they can do what they want to do to justify their actions is what I'm trying to say. When men and women take the word of God and change it so that they can do what they want to do is what it's talking about. And the consequences that followed these people that didn't listen to God is what it's talking about. How the Egyptians were killed, how Sodom and Gomorrah was smited by God, and how the angels that rebelled are now, and it says, it worded it as they've been reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day. That's what it says in 6. So not only is what it's trying to say is this stuff is wrong when people do this, but there's consequences for those actions. Okay, this is the verse 9 that I really want to focus on. I'm going to read till 10, and then that's all I'm going to read today. But it says in 9, yet Michael the archangel, when contending with the devil, he disputed about the body of Moses, durst not bring against him a railing accusation, but said, the Lord rebuke thee. But these speak evil of these things which they know not, but what they know naturally as brute beasts, in those things they corrupt themselves. So I'm going to skip to 10, then I'm going to go back to 9. It says, but these speak evil of those things which they know not. So that is so much like the world we live in today. People are so quick to speak about things, act they know everything about them, but they have no idea what they're talking about. That goes into lost people that think they've got it all figured out, and they're going straight to hell. And it goes into even people that believe to be Christians and think they've all got it figured out, but they're going straight to hell as well. But it says that all that we know naturally is animalistic, to brute beast is what it says. In those things they corrupt themselves. So the world really thinks they've got it all figured out, but really all they're doing is corrupting themselves and damning themselves to hell. But I'll back up to 9. This is what the whole basis of the lesson I want to focus on, but I just wanted to read the rest of that to give some background. But it says in 9, yet Michael the archangel. So we're talking about Michael. He's mentioned in Revelation. He's mentioned in Daniel. He's mentioned in some other places. And this isn't just an angel that sits and plays the trumpet. This is Michael the archangel is what it says. This is the Michael that leads the angels against Satan. Not one that's following, but the leader of the angels when they go against Satan and his followers and destroy them. This is the Michael we're talking about. Not just anybody. This is a very important, very strong Michael, right? He's probably one of the strongest angels, I would say, because he is chosen to lead them against the battle against Satan. I mean, if I was looking for a leader in a battle, I wouldn't choose the dinkiest, the least powerful. I'd choose the best, the strongest, the smartest, right? And I'm not saying he's smarter than God or smarter than Jesus, but I'm saying of the angels, I think he is. He's pretty strong. This is the Michael that if you go read in Daniel, when another angel was having a hard time in a battle, a spiritual battle, it talks about in Daniel, that they sent Michael to help him. This isn't just a normal, ordinary, right? I'm trying to get this point across of who Michael is. And when other angels are in trouble, they send Michael to help them, right? This is the angel, right? But it says that when contending with the devil, he disputed about the body of Moses. Now, I don't know why the devil wanted the body of Moses, but God wasn't letting him have it, right? That's not what the lesson is about, but that's what they're disputing. Moses is dead, and the devil wanted the body of Moses, and God sent Michael down there to not let that happen. And it says, durst not bring against him a railing accusation, but said, the Lord rebuke thee. So we're talking about Michael, this powerful angel, right? That I believe has the power to rebuke the devil, because he's the one leading the angels against him. But he does not rely on the power in himself as Michael the archangel. He still lets God take the lead, is what it is. And if we cannot understand that, even we have faced spiritual warfare, but we face nothing like an angel. We face nothing like an archangel, Michael. So if Michael himself doesn't say in the name of Michael, Michael didn't go anywhere that God sent him in the name of Michael. Michael went in the name of the Lord, is what I'm trying to get you to understand this morning. Right. Is that Michael could have smited the devil. I fully believe he could have, because if he didn't have the strength, God wouldn't have chose him. He would have sent somebody stronger, right? And Michael could have went down there out of anger and out of himself and out of pride. I know we're talking about an angel here, but if angels can't be prideful, there wouldn't be Satan, would there? So because he was an angel as well, but he went down there in the name of the Lord. And if we can't understand that an angel still depends on the power of God, why do we think we can do it without God? Is the point I'm trying to get across. I know this is a different kind of lesson, or whatever you want to call it, but I've heard some stuff like this come at me through this week, and it caught my attention. At first, honestly, it was so crazy that I had to go read it to make sure it was actually in the Bible, and it was. It just surprised me. And what they were so blown back by was the fact that Michael, like I've been told you, Michael, if you go read in Daniel, I'm not making this up, there was an angel that was held up in dispute with a spirit on the other side, with an evil spirit, and they sent Michael so that they would prevail. So, if I'm held up in a battle, I'm not calling for somebody that can't fight better than me. I'm calling for somebody bigger than me, somebody stronger than me. So this is the Michael. And even he went to fight the devil with the Lord. Not with himself, not in himself, but in the Lord. Because that's what it means when it says, not bring against him a railing accusation, but said, the Lord rebuke thee. So that's saying Michael did not judge. Michael let the Lord judge, is what I'm saying. If the angels of the Lord don't try to judge on their own behalf, and they still let their Father, which is our Father, I believe he's their Father too, because he created them as well. But if they still let God lead the way, why can we not? And we don't. And they were, whatever the dispute was, it was about Moses' body. So I'll use Moses as an example of what we do as humans. God told Moses to speak to the rock, right? Y'all know what rock I'm talking about, the rock that the water come from, right? They didn't have no water, they were in the wilderness. He said, Moses, speak to the rock. But out of anger, out of Moses in himself, Moses struck the rock. Now the water still came, but it had nothing to do with Moses' power. It was God providing for the Israelites. But that is what I'm talking about. If Michael was sent down there, he did what God said. As if Moses would have done what God said, he would have spoke to the rock instead of struck the rock. But a lot of times we get worked up and we think we can do it on our own. And I had my own personal, I don't really want to say example, but I went through something this week. I guess I'll just say it like that. I went through something this week. You can ask my wife. And I was so bitter. I was so angry. And it just felt like this evilness was on me, right? And I tried all day to get through it on my own. And it just felt like it was eating me alive, right? And I don't care if y'all judge me. I don't care if you think maybe I did something wrong to bring it upon myself. But I'll just be honest with you that it felt like something was inside of me twisting me up. And I wasn't fun to be around. And I told my wife, I said, I know that I'm being this way, but I just can't do any different. I just can't get through. This is how I'm feeling. And I said, I really don't want to be doing what we're doing right now. And I know that it's selfish of me, but that's just how I feel, right? And I tried to get through it all day, and I couldn't. And it realized with me what we've read in the Bible time and time again, that we don't battle against flesh and blood, but spirits and principalities and darkness, right? That's a paraphrase. It's not exactly. And I really feel like that was the devil or one of his followers, for whatever reason, was on me like that evilness. And I'm not going to say the evilness was in me, but I know that evil is in all of us, because if it was, that's where sin comes from. Sin is evil. Sin is the opposite of God, and the opposite of God is not good, right? So I'm not saying we're evil people, but I'm saying we've all sinned. So we've all been closer to the devil than we have to God at some point in our life, right? So I feel like this evil, and I'm not talking about possession or anything like that, but just this cloud, and not like you see in the cartoons, but it was more of a spiritual feeling that it was just heading me down. And I just kept trying to get through it on my own because I was too ignorant to realize what was going on. And when I did, I texted 2 people that I knew would pray at that moment, would stop what they were doing and pray, or not stop what they were doing, but pray in their head and their mind. And I knew that not that they're anything special, but I know that when they pray, they're in tune with God, they're in tune with Jesus, and He hears them. And I'm not saying that you're not as good as them, and that's not why I didn't text you, but I knew that they'd get it. I knew that they'd get it quick. That's the difference. Some people, you may text me at certain times of the day, I might not get it for 3 hours. If you need me to pray right now, maybe you shouldn't text me at that time of day, and I won't be offended by that, because I understand when I want somebody to pray, I need it now, right? So I texted these people. It was so bad that I laid in the bed. It was making me physically sick. And I texted these people, and as soon as they said they were praying, which I believe they were, it immediately lifted, and it was different. So that tells me that it wasn't not that God can't heal physical things, but if it was physical, it should have went away. The Tylenol should have took it away. I should have been able to get hydrated, drink the Gatorade, and it would have made me feel better. But it wasn't. It was a spiritual battle. And I tried to do it on my own, and God showed me that I couldn't. But as soon as me and other people asked God for help, they had to leave. Yep. They had to leave because they have no power. When Jesus went to that person that had the spirits, was a demon, and he threw them into the pigs. He said, "What's your name?" They said, "We're legion, we're many," right? So it's more than one, right? And because we means multiple, and it says many, which means a lot. And he said, the demon said, "Have you come to persecute us before our time?" Because they know that sooner or later, God's going to come back. Those horses are going to come, the trumpet's going to sound, and it's going to be over for them. And they're going to get cast into hell, and they're never going to have any other chance to get out. And their days are limited like everybody else's. They know that when that time comes, they hold no power. They know that when Jesus showed up, they didn't have any power because they asked him. We know, they don't know nobody knows when the end of the world is. They don't know either, right? But they knew it wasn't right then because certain things that have to happen hasn't happened yet. They knew that at that time. And they said, "Have you come before the time?" Because they know what's waiting on them, right? So these spirits and these demons, when I say spirits, I'm not talking about long lost granny, passed away, and I'm not talking about that, okay? Because I don't believe in spirits as that, and you shouldn't either, and I don't mean that to offend anybody, but when we die, our soul goes where? Heaven or hell. There's no stuck in limbo. There is no purgatory. You're going one or the other, because if we could die and we could find a way to stick around, God wouldn't be fair, and God is fair and God is just. If you believe that, then you've got to believe that everybody is going somewhere and nobody's sticking around. So that when I say spirits, that's not what I'm talking about, and that's not what the Bible's talking about. I don't know what he's talking about, but I know that's not it. I know it's spirits of good and evil. It tells us that. But these spirits and these demons, which I believe the demons are Lucifer's followers, right? They were all once angels, and when they rebelled, God cast them out. It says that with Lucifer, he cast out, it was a third of the stars, is what it says. A lot of people say a third of the stars was a third of the angels. I don't know, because I've not found once where it says specifically angels. It says stars. I don't know. Maybe we can ask them when we get there. But it does tell us that devil has followers. It does speak of demons, and it does speak of spirits, and it tells us to try them to see if they're good or evil, right? So what I'm getting at is these things are real, but God has power over them. God's angels has power over them. Jesus has power over them. And if we have Jesus in us, we have power over them. Not that we can do it on our own, because I believe that Michael was, an angel of the Lord. So he had power. He had power we can't even wrap our minds around. And he could have went after the devil and judged him for what he had done, and he could have rebuked him in the name of himself. But even as powerful as Michael is, Michael said, "In the name of the Lord, in the name of the God, I rebuke thee," is what he was saying. And so it really kind of smacked me in the mouth to kind of try to wrap my brain around the fact that how powerful this angel is, and even he didn't challenge the devil in himself. Even he knew that he needed the help of the Lord. And even if he didn't need the help of the Lord, he was humble enough to know that God has more power than him, right? There might be things that you can do on your own, but you still need to stay humble about it, is what I'm getting at. Maybe God has given you the ability for something to be good at it, but who gave you the ability? Without the Lord giving you the ability, you couldn't do it, could you? So that's what I'm getting at, is I hope that you understand what I'm saying is it just really made me realize I'd never even really read much of the book of Jude, really. And I know that a lot of people really don't read it in this context, but some people do, because I was researching it. And it just showed me that how humble we really need to be. Because everywhere that Michael was sent, he went in the name of the Lord. Are we going throughout every day of our life in the name of the Lord? Are we going in the name of ourselves? Are we going in our own pleasure that it talks about up in the beginning of Jude, when it talks about how ungodly men that call themselves godly are doing it in what they want to do, are putting God's grace on their desires and the desires of the world. They're twisting it to conform to a world that God did not create to be this way. God never set out for the world to be this way, but the devil went down and corrupted man. But man had a choice. Now, don't get me wrong, like we all have a choice. They had a choice, but The devil went down there and tempted them and corrupted them to disobey God. And then they were thrown out. And the whole plan that God had was ruined because of sin. Right? So the world, the way it is today, is not what God intended. So it is not lining up with His grace, is what it's getting at. So when we go out in the world, do we understand that? Do we twist the Bible and say, I've said it before. People say, I don't see anything in the Bible about not having one drink of alcohol. Yeah, but it says to be sober. So are we twisting that? And then when it's too late, we've done had too many, now we're drunk. We've done twisted what the Bible said, right? Are we going out in the name of the Lord? Are we going out prideful in the name of ourselves? Because even Michael didn't go out and fight the devil in the name of himself. He went out in the name of God. And that is when God sends us somewhere specifically, and when He doesn't. When things just happen. Do we have that mindset that it's God's will or nothing? Because that's what it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be like, well, I don't really feel like God's got anything to do with this. God's got to do with everything. So everything we do, we need to make sure it's what God wants to do. So, that's the whole point of this lesson. I hope it made some sense.